The moment Jake Matthews' wife died in childbirth, he knew his career at Westfield Marketing would never be the same, but he never imagined his boss would threaten to fire him over an empty chair. Standing in the doorway of his cubicle, Mr. Donovan pointed accusingly at Jake's vacant ergonomic office chair while Jake sat cross-legged on the floor, his 5-year-old daughter Lily sleeping peacefully against his chest. Everything Jake had worked for, the promotion he was weeks away from earning, the financial security his daughter desperately needed, the health insurance that covered Lily's asthma medication, hung in the balance of this single confrontation. "Matthews, this is the third time this week your chair's been empty during working hours," Mr. Donovan said, his voice carrying across the open office floor. "Care to explain why you're sitting on the floor instead of at your desk like a professional?" The other employees pretended not to listen, but Jake could feel their eyes on him, wondering how the quiet widower would respond to such a public challenge. Would he finally break under the pressure of balancing single parenthood with his demanding career? Jake gently adjusted his sleeping daughter, careful not to wake her. The daycare had called an hour ago. Lily had a fever, and with no family nearby, Jake had no choice but to pick her up and bring her back to the office to finish his presentation for tomorrow's client meeting. "Sir, the chair's too small," Jake replied softly, meeting his boss's stern gaze. "Come sit on me, much more comfortable." He patted the carpet beside him. "I've got room for you and the quarterly reports if you'd like to review them together." Mr. Donovan's expression shifted from irritation to confusion. The office grew silent as everyone waited for his response. Would this be the end of Jake's career at Westfield? The single father had already lost so much, could he afford to lose this job too? Instead of answering, Mr. Donovan turned and walked away, disappearing into his office and closing the door with a decisive click. Jake returned to his laptop, typing one-handed while his daughter slept against him, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his professional life. 3 hours later, as Jake was gathering his things to leave, Mr. Donovan reappeared, carrying a folding cot and small pillow. "My wife used this when our son was young," he said quietly, setting it up in the corner of Jake's cubicle. "I had it in my car. Been meaning to donate it." Their eyes met, and for the first time, Jake saw something beyond the stern executive. He saw another father who understood. "Matthews," Mr. Donovan continued, his voice now barely audible, "my sister raised 2 kids alone after my brother-in-law passed. I know what you're going through." He paused, clearing his throat. "The Henderson presentation tomorrow, how close are you to finishing it?" Jake swallowed the lump forming in his throat. "About 80% done, sir. I'll have it ready by morning, I promise." "I know you will," Mr. Donovan nodded. "That's why I'm giving you the Westfield account next month. You've earned it." He turned to leave, then added, "And Matthews? We're installing a small break room next week. With a couch. For emergencies." The drive home that evening felt different. Jake glanced in the rearview mirror at Lily, who was now awake and humming softly to herself, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched tightly in her small hands. The weight that had been pressing on his chest since Maria's death 18 months ago seemed slightly lighter. For the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of hope. Their apartment was modest but cozy, a 2-bedroom unit in a complex that was close enough to both the office and Lily's school to make the daily commute manageable. As Jake prepared dinner, simple pasta with sauce from a jar, one of the few meals he'd mastered since becoming a solo parent, Lily sat at their small kitchen table coloring a picture. "Is this good, Daddy?" she asked, holding up her artwork. It showed 3 stick figures, a tall one with brown hair like Jake's, a small one with pigtails like Lily's, and a third figure floating above them with wings and a halo. Jake's throat tightened. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Is that Mommy watching over us?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Miss Carey at daycare says Mommy is our guardian angel now." She tilted her head, studying her father's face. "Why did you bring me to your work today? Was I bad at daycare?" "No, honey, not at all," Jake said quickly, setting down the wooden spoon and kneeling beside her chair. "You had a fever, remember? And when you're sick, I want to be with you to make sure you're okay." "But your boss was mad," Lily said, her lower lip trembling slightly. "I heard him. Is it because of me?" The innocence of her question broke Jake's heart. "No, Lilybug. It's not because of you." Mr. Donovan just didn't understand at first. "But I think he does now." He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "And you know what? I think he might become our friend." Lily considered this, then nodded, apparently satisfied. "Can I have extra cheese on my pasta?" Jake laughed, grateful for the resilience of children. "Extra cheese it is." Later that night, after tucking Lily into bed and reading her favorite story twice, Jake sat at the kitchen table with his laptop, determined to finish the Henderson presentation. The apartment was quiet except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing on the street below. He worked steadily, fueled by coffee and the memory of Mr. Donovan's unexpected kindness. As he polished the final slides, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Caroline, a colleague from the marketing department. Saw what happened today. You handled it with grace. Let me know if you need backup tomorrow. I've got your slides covered if Lily needs you. Jake stared at the message, surprised. He and Caroline had always been friendly but professional. They'd collaborated on projects before, but this offer felt different, more personal. He typed a reply, deleted it, then typed again. Thanks, Caroline. Means a lot. Lily's fever is down, so hopefully daycare tomorrow. But I appreciate the backup offer. He hesitated, then added, coffee sometime? My treat. To say thanks. Her response came quickly, it's a date. I mean, not a date. Unless. No pressure. Coffee sounds great. Jake smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't experienced in a long time. He closed his laptop, knowing the presentation was as good as it could be. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, for the first time in months, he felt ready to face them. The Henderson presentation the next morning went better than Jake could have hoped. The clients were impressed with his thorough analysis and creative approach, and Mr. Donovan actually smiled, twice, during the meeting. As they were shaking hands with the Henderson team, Jake noticed Caroline standing in the doorway, giving him a subtle thumbs up. Excellent work, Matthews, Mr. Donovan said as the clients departed. This is exactly why you're getting the Westfield account. He lowered his voice. How's your daughter today? Much better, sir. Thank you for asking, Jake replied, still somewhat surprised by his boss's newfound interest in his personal life. Good. Mr. Donovan nodded, then hesitated. Listen, Matthews, I've been thinking about what happened yesterday. It got me wondering how many other employees are struggling with similar situations. Jake waited, unsure where this was heading. I'd like you to head up a small committee, Mr. Donovan continued. To explore ways we might make Westfield more accommodating to employees with family responsibilities. Nothing radical, mind you. Just practical solutions that make good business sense. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. I'd be honored, sir. I actually have some ideas already. I thought you might. Mr. Donovan almost smiled again. Get me a proposal by the end of the month. And Matthews? Include Caroline Peterson on your committee. She's been pushing for something like this for years. As Mr. Donovan walked away, Caroline approached, her expression curious. What was that about? You looked shocked. Jake explained the committee assignment, watching as Caroline's eyes widened with excitement. Are you serious? This is incredible. She grabbed his arm impulsively, then quickly let go, looking embarrassed. Sorry. It's just, I've been trying to get management to consider family-friendly policies since I started here 3 years ago. My sister is a single mom, and I see what she goes through trying to balance everything. I had no idea you were passionate about this, Jake said, genuinely surprised. Caroline shrugged. It never came up. We've always been so focused on deadlines and campaigns. She smiled. Maybe that coffee should be a planning session instead? Why not both? Jake suggested, feeling a confidence he hadn't experienced in a long time. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Between managing his regular workload, heading up the new committee, and caring for Lily, Jake barely had time to breathe. But for the first time since Maria's death, he felt energized rather than exhausted by the challenges. The committee, which had grown to include representatives from various departments, met twice weekly, gathering data, researching policies at other companies, and drafting proposals. Caroline proved to be an invaluable partner, organizing their findings and adding her own thoughtful insights. Their coffee meetings had become a regular occurrence, sometimes extending into dinner when they lost track of time discussing their ideas. Jake found himself looking forward to these sessions more than he cared to admit, even as guilt occasionally nagged at him for enjoying Caroline's company so much. One evening, as they were working late at the office, Caroline noticed Jake checking his phone repeatedly. Everything okay with Lily? She asked. Jake nodded. She's with Mrs. Patel from next door. She's great with Lily, but I don't like to impose too often. Caroline hesitated, then said, you know, we could work at your place sometimes. That way you could be with Lily, and we could still get things done. Jake looked up, surprised by the suggestion. You wouldn't mind? Of course not, Caroline said simply. I'd love to meet her, actually. You talk about her all the time. The following evening, Caroline came over with takeout Chinese food and a small gift for Lily, a craft kit for making friendship bracelets. Lily, initially shy, warmed up quickly when Caroline asked about her drawings displayed on the refrigerator. "Daddy says you're helping make his work better for families," Lily said as they sat around the kitchen table, sharing containers of lo mein and sweet and sour chicken. Caroline smiled. "That's right. Your daddy had a really good idea, and we're trying to make it happen." "Because of me sitting on him at the office?" Lily asked innocently. Jake choked slightly on his water, and Caroline laughed. "Partly because of that, yes." After dinner, while Lily worked on her new craft kit, Jake and Caroline spread their papers across the living room floor, refining their proposal for Mr. Donovan. As they worked, Jake couldn't help noticing how natural it felt having Caroline there, how seamlessly she fit into their small family space. "What?" Caroline asked, catching him watching her. "Nothing," Jake said quickly. "Just, thank you. For everything." Caroline's expression softened. "You don't have to thank me, Jake. This matters to me too." She glanced over at Lily, who was concentrating intently on her bracelet. "She's amazing, you know. You're doing a great job with her." "I'm trying," Jake admitted. "Some days are harder than others." "That's true for everyone," Caroline said gently. "Even people who aren't raising children on their own." Their eyes met, and for a moment, Jake felt something shift between them, a recognition of possibilities he hadn't allowed himself to consider until now. The moment was interrupted by Lily, who proudly presented Caroline with a completed friendship bracelet. "It's for you," she announced. "Because you're Daddy's friend and now you're my friend too." Caroline's eyes glistened as she extended her wrist for Lily to tie on the bracelet. "I'll wear it every day," she promised. Later, after Lily was in bed and Caroline had gone home, Jake sat alone in the quiet apartment, turning over the events of the evening in his mind. For the first time since losing Maria, he could envision a future that held more than just survival, one that might include joy, partnership, and even love again. But first, there was the committee proposal to finalize. The presentation to the board was scheduled for next week, and everything depended on convincing them that family-friendly policies weren't just compassionate, they made good business sense. The day of the board presentation arrived with unexpected complications. Lily woke up with another fever, higher than before, and Jake found himself facing the same dilemma that had started this journey. This time, however, he had options. Caroline offered to deliver the presentation in his place, and the newly installed family emergency room at the office was available if he needed to bring Lily in. After a quick call to Lily's pediatrician, who recommended monitoring her at home, Jake made his decision. He texted Mr. Donovan, "Lily's sick. Working from home this morning. We'll be in for board meeting at 2 p.m. The response came immediately, "Take care of your daughter. We'll reschedule if necessary." Jake stared at his phone in disbelief. 6 weeks ago, such understanding would have been unimaginable. Now, it felt like the beginning of something revolutionary. By noon, Lily's fever had broken, and Mrs. Patel agreed to watch her while Jake went to the office for the presentation. As he gathered his materials, Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, are you going to tell them about the special room for kids?" she asked. Jake smiled. "That's one of our big ideas, yes. And the chairs for daddies and kids to sit together?" "That too." Lily nodded solemnly. "Good. Because sometimes kids need their daddies at work." Jake knelt down and hugged her tightly. "You're absolutely right, Lilybug. And that's exactly what I'm going to tell them." The boardroom was intimidating, all polished wood and leather chairs, with the company's founding principles displayed prominently on the wall. Jake and Caroline waited nervously as the board members filed in, their expressions unreadable. Mr. Donovan entered last, giving Jake a subtle nod of encouragement. "Mr. Matthews, Ms. Peterson, the floor is yours." Jake began with a story, his story. He described the day his chair sat empty, the day he chose his daughter's well-being over professional protocol. He spoke honestly about the challenges of balancing work and family, not just for single parents but for all employees with caregiving responsibilities. Caroline followed with the data they'd collected, statistics on productivity, employee retention, and the cost of turnover. She presented case studies from companies that had implemented family-friendly policies and seen significant returns on their investment. Together, they outlined their proposal: flexible scheduling options, emergency childcare services, a dedicated family space in the office, and training for managers on supporting employees with family responsibilities. "We're not suggesting that Westfield become a daycare center," Jake concluded. "We're proposing that Westfield recognize the whole employee, not just the professional who sits in the chair from 9 to 5, but the parent, the caregiver, the human being who sometimes needs flexibility to be their best at work." When they finished, the room was silent. Jake's heart pounded as he waited for a response. Had they gone too far? Asked for too much? The CEO, Mrs. Harrington, spoke first. Mr. Matthews, Ms. Peterson, this is certainly ambitious. Her tone gave nothing away. What would be the cost of implementing these changes company-wide? Caroline stepped forward with detailed budget projections, showing how many of the proposals could be implemented with minimal expense, while others would require more significant investment but promised substantial returns in reduced turnover and increased productivity. And you believe employees would actually use these benefits? Asked another board member skeptically. Not just take advantage of them? Jake met his gaze steadily. Sir, in my experience, employees don't want to bring their personal problems to work. They do so only when they have no other choice. These policies don't encourage dependency, they provide support during inevitable life challenges, allowing valuable team members to remain productive rather than forcing them to choose between their families and their careers. Mrs. Harrington studied Jake thoughtfully. Mr. Matthews, 6 weeks ago you were sitting on the floor of your cubicle with your daughter. Today you're presenting a comprehensive proposal that could transform our corporate culture. That's quite a journey. Jake nodded. It started with an empty chair, Mrs. Harrington. And a boss who was willing to see beyond it to the person, the parent, who was still showing up, still doing the work, just not in the conventional way. Mrs. Harrington turned to Mr. Donovan. Richard, you've been unusually quiet. What's your take on all this? Mr. Donovan cleared his throat. When I first saw Matthews on the floor with his daughter, my initial reaction was irritation. It seemed unprofessional, disruptive. 6 months later, Jake stood nervously in the conference room, Lily's hand-drawn picture tucked into his presentation folder for luck. The promotion to senior account manager had changed everything: flexible hours, better pay, and most importantly, the ability to be both the father and provider his daughter needed. But today's presentation to the board would determine whether his innovative, family-first workplace initiative would become company policy. Could a single father really transform a traditional corporate environment into something revolutionary? As board members filed in, Jake noticed something unusual. Several had brought their children, who settled quietly in a corner with books and tablets. Mr. Donovan entered last, winking at Jake as he took his seat. The board was quite interested in experiencing your workplace philosophy firsthand, he explained. Show us what you've got, Matthews. Jake's presentation was unlike any Westfield had seen before. He proposed dedicated family spaces in each department, emergency childcare services, and flexible scheduling that focused on results rather than hours in a chair. When he finished, the room fell silent. Had he gone too far? Was Westfield ready for such dramatic change? The CEO, Mrs. Harrington, stood slowly. Mr. Matthews, my mother worked 3 jobs when my father left. She missed my graduation because she couldn't afford to lose a day's pay. Her voice wavered slightly. What you're proposing would have changed our lives. She looked around the room. All in favor? Every hand rose. Today, 5 years later, Westfield Family Integrated Workspaces has expanded to 30 locations nationwide. Jake, now Executive Director of Workplace Innovation, still keeps a photo on his desk, Lily sleeping against his chest that day on the office floor, with Mr. Donovan's folding cot visible in the background. The empty chair taught me that sometimes, the most important work happens when we step away from our desks, Jake tells new employees during orientation. At Westfield, we don't just make room for families, we build our company around them. Wherever you're watching from today, I hope this story reminds you that sometimes the greatest professional strength comes from embracing our personal responsibilities rather than hiding them. The workplace is changing because brave individuals refuse to choose between being good parents and valuable employees. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of your own struggles balancing work and family, please consider sharing it with others who might need this message of hope. Your support helps us continue bringing these life-changing stories to people around the world who need to know they're not alone in their journey.